In 1979, the coastal town of Goleta, California, operated on a quiet confidence. People went to work, locked their doors at night, and went to bed believing that morning was waiting safely on the other side of sleep. Every neighborhood relies on a shared social contract, the idea that darkness is only darkness, and that a locked front door provides a reliable boundary against the outside world. It is the psychological comfort of the sealed room. Predatory surveillance subverts that comfort. Long before any physical contact is made, an invisible watcher studies a neighborhood. They track the morning departures, the flicker of a television turning off, and the precise moment a house goes dark. A forced latch is simply the final step of a process that begins much earlier. By the time he reached the door, the intruder had already converted a family's safe routine into his own calculated preparation. In the early hours of October 1st, an intruder crossed that threshold, entering the bedroom of an unnamed Goleta couple while their guard was down. Once inside, he relied on a practiced method of coercive control. He used physical bindings, but his primary leverage was the couple's loyalty to each other. He made it clear that any sudden movement or attempt to resist by one partner would trigger the immediate execution of the other. He then turned the physical layout of the home against them. By moving between rooms and creating deliberate separation, he manufactured agonizing blind spots. The victims were forced to listen to their own home for information, a drawer opening, a paused footstep in the kitchen, never knowing exactly where the threat was standing. He corrupted the meaning of their domestic space. The walls built for protection were now serving as the architecture of a cage. Lying bound in the dark, the couple heard the intruder begin muttering to himself. They realized that waiting in passive compliance would lead to their deaths. They had to find a fraction of a second to act. The woman screamed. It was a physical refusal that crossed the property line, shattering the privacy and silence the attacker required to maintain his leverage. Deprived of the isolation his plan depended on, the intruder panicked and fled. His escape vehicle was a bicycle, an ordinary tool used to disappear back into the quiet suburban streets. By morning, the pavement looked the same. The rooflines held. An invaded home often looks undisturbed from the sidewalk, masking a psychological reality that has been permanently altered. Surviving an interrupted attack is a different kind of burden. The couple had to live in a world where their sense of domestic safety had evaporated, while the neighborhood around them moved on. Because he escaped, the terror he rehearsed in Goleta traveled. In the months and years that followed, he entered other homes across California, and in those rooms, the attacks ended in murder. He remained hidden because the systems hunting him were fractured. Different counties operated in silos. Homicide detectives, burglary units, and sexual assault investigators rarely compared their files across city lines, which kept the statewide pattern invisible. Media monikers further divided public awareness. People in Sacramento watched for the East Area rapist, while communities in Southern California feared the original Night Stalker. This geographic separation created a false sense of safety. The predator survived for decades by hiding within the gaps, delays, and miscommunications of a fractured institutional system. He found shelter in the seams of the law. For the surviving Goleta couple, the night of the attack extended into a 40-year room. They spent decades living on high alert, while the official investigation sat dormant in filing cabinets. The silence broke in 2018. Investigators turned to investigative genetic genealogy, building family trees from public databases to finally link the decades-old biological evidence together. The DNA pointed to Joseph James DeAngelo Jr. The revelation brought a deeper betrayal. During some of the most active years of the crimes, DeAngelo was a sworn police officer, using his knowledge of investigative procedure to remain unseen. The shadowy figure of public imagination was replaced by the reality of an aging man standing in a driveway. He had lived an ordinary life, occupying the same world of grocery stores and family routines as the people he harmed. Identification brought a brutal validation to decades of vigilance. The survivor's long-standing fear of a predator in the world was grounded in the reality of a man living freely in the open. In 2020, DeAngelo pleaded guilty to a massive sequence of murders, kidnappings, and uncharged crimes. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. The scale of the case forced the physical space of the courtroom to expand. It had to accommodate the volume of victims, families, and decades of accumulated trauma finally entering the official record. A prison sentence is a legal finality, but it is not a human restoration. The state achieved its closure without being able to refund the 40 years of stolen time or the security lost by those who survived. The true center of this history belongs to the people who outlasted him. The couple in Goleta lived. They fought through their terror, let a scream cross the dark, and refused to let an intruder's violence define their existence.